My guest today is Ginny White Johnston, class of 1996, the second class out of Governor's School. Jenny, if you could just kind of get us a real quick overview of everything you've been up to since graduating those many years ago.
Oh, a few years ago. Yeah. Well, I graduated in 96 and went to Virginia Tech to study architecture. And, after a couple of years studying architecture, I decided to intern where I realized that my love was actually interior design.
Hmm.
So I transferred to VCU and ended up getting married and then working at a local firm in Richmond, where I stayed for um, my career, the beginning of my career through when I left, which was actually just a couple of years ago, to move to Capital One. I was a part owner in the firm and really enjoyed, it was a great experience to kind of move through a firm like that.
Mm-hmm.
But have two kids, two boys, and yeah, now I'm at Capital One doing workplace strategy. So kind of shifted my career a little bit and still in Richmond.
Very cool. So yeah, switching from an agency where you used to work or like one that had multiple clients to being in-house at Capital One. Tell us about that change and whether you like that more, being able to concentrate on kind of one client super deep versus having a whole portfolio.
Yeah, I really enjoy it. It was one of the reasons that I moved to being on the client side. Although I loved being a consultant because I got to wear multiple hats at multiple different projects and design a lot of great spaces. What I really enjoy now is that you get to really find out and dig into how people work and why they come into the office and how they get their work done. And the diversity of people really makes for some rich feedback. Allows me to stay with a project from the very beginning to after and kind of find out, how did we do? So I would leave a project after you do the huge unveiling. It's
Mm-hmm.
this beautiful space. Um, but then you never really found out, did people work successfully there? Did it work the way that you envisioned? And are people responding to it? And now I'm able to double click and dig deeper and find out how we did and then continue to iterate, because just like life, design and the workplace is an evolution and it's a journey, and you need to continue to iterate. So I that's why I've kind of made the move and really enjoy it.
Very cool. Speaking of how people use a space and coming into the office, how much has your work changed with COVID? Do you guys still have anyone in the office, or how are you adapting?
Yeah, we're only supporting essential workers right now. And our CEO has said initially we were going to bring back or start bringing back associates right after Labor Day. But now we're going to go to a volunteer population for those that don't feel supported at home and really bring back everybody or start to bring back people in the first of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So my work has really changed, being working from home with my two mini coworkers, uh, has really, I read an article this morning about Zoom fatigue, and I think
Mm-hmm.
it's a thing. I
Mm-hmm.
really think it's a thing that we're all dealing with, having to communicate in a different way and not having that social interaction is really tough. Um, and, my job is a lot of influence and collaboration, and that's hard to do
Mm-hmm.
online. It's hard to know when to interject. And how many times have you talked over somebody that's interjecting at the same time you're talking? Oh, and it just gets uncomfortable. So I think that a lot of people are missing that face-to-face interaction, but they're enjoying some of the flexibility that is work from home. The fact that I can get up and make a sandwich, or get up and have a cup of tea, or read my kid a story at 2 in the afternoon. Those are little things that this time in life is allowing us to do. So you've got to find the perks in with all of the frustration.
What kind of subjects are you covering with your kids? Because are you having to play the teacher role, or are they doing any sort of online learning?
At the end of the year, they did virtual learning, but they
Mm-hmm.
did review. My eldest is 12, and he just finished a virtual bridge to algebra class. And he learned a lot, but it really struck home to me because instead of using his teacher online as a resource, he did the easiest thing that all children do, which is, hey, mom's sitting right there. I could just tell her my frustration and she can help me with this. My youngest is going into the second grade. So for him, it's a lot easier in terms of what they're learning. They're learning the basics of, continuing on your reading journey, continuing on your writing journey, but it's harder to get him to engage online.
Well, when you were coming out of governor's school, I never talked to you enough, when we were going to school, to know whether you were interested in design at that point. Like, how early on did you know that you wanted to go into either architecture or interior design or something in that field?
Yeah, that's a good question. My father's an architect,
Mm.
and my mother is a designer, and by art trade, fine arts degree. So I was that kid that was designing doll houses, and laying out and framing out a house, and what would my house look like, and so I always did that. We were always big into the arts. And in high school, I was actually in the advanced art class and loved it, and did more pencil sketches, collage. It was always my release and my outlet
Hmm.
to be artistic. And I knew I was going to be an architect. So I did uh, early decision to Virginia Tech. But then I interned, and I really feel like everyone should intern,
Mm.
because you start to realize what you'll actually be doing for your job, which is sometimes not what you think you'll be doing. And so I got in there and I started to lay out roof scupper details and wall sections. And I learned really early on that I didn't actually want to know how the building stood up. I wanted to work with how people experienced a space.
Hmm.
And, what did they touch, and what did they feel, and what was the sense when they saw the lighting, and how did they experience the space? And so I had the same opportunity to intern with an interior designer in that firm. And that was just monumental in changing and saying, yep, I'm making this move, I'm making this shift in my career, and it's the right thing. This is what I want to be doing when I'm old and gray.
Hmm. Very cool. Um, Switching gears a little bit, I hope you don't mind my asking. At the beginning of the year, I was just digging through your Facebook posts looking for stuff to talk about. I noticed
Yeah.
that you posted at the very beginning of the year, before COVID broke out and all that, sort of a wish to people struggling with food addiction or eating disorders, that they not succumb to social media and all the pressures kind of placed on them. And you shared with the people who follow you on social media that you've struggled with this eating disorder. Can you talk just a little bit about your journey there, how you're doing with it today, how COVID has maybe changed it, made it harder or whatever?
Yeah, happy to. In college, I struggled with gaining that freshman 15,
Mm.
and um, and really placed a lot of value on how people looked at me and how they engaged with me, and had probably a lot of low confidence, which is actually a huge issue for a lot of bright kids. What happened was I went home in the summer, and I had kind of was struck with this fact that now I didn't feel good about myself. I didn't feel, and I harbinged that with my weight. I kind of just equated it to my weight. So I started to lose weight, and I decided to do it in a very unhealthy way, kind of starving myself.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know any better. I was 19 years old. And then people started to say, "Oh, Ginny, you've lost weight." And I started to get that, that acknowledgement, and it started to make me feel good. And I think it just started a roller coaster in my mind that led to anorexia, and then finally bulimia. And my mother decided to put me in Johns Hopkins. And so I went through their program with a lot of children. I realized I was 19 and I had kind of hit that rock bottom. I think I was 20 at the time. And I knew that I wanted to get better. I knew that I was unhappy and depressed, and I wanted to get better. And I was shocked that I was in the hospital with 13-year-olds and 14-year-olds. And that kind of struck me as just because I remember being a happy 13 and 14-year-old. That made me sad, but through amazing support, I met my husband when I was in recovery. And, having somebody who tells you that you're beautiful on the inside and outside, I mean, that kind of support helps you through your mental journey. Now, I would say through the years, I've had ups and downs. Always feeling like, do I stand up? Am I good enough? That's a journey that I think everyone goes through, but through my past experience, it's like what brings you down also lifts you up. I'm able to say that I am stronger today. And, although I run for healthy reasons. I choose not to eat something now because I don't want to put on a few pounds, because I don't want to go through the wait. But then at a birthday party, I'm able to enjoy a piece of cake and not think about it. So it's healthy reasons now, and I know the difference. And I think at the time I didn't.
Thank you for sharing that. Anything I haven't asked you that you want to share to all the people who might be tuning in?
The only thing that I definitely want to share is that the Governor's School was, in my experience, one of the best schools. It was a small community. It was a community of acceptance and growth and friendship. And, you and I, even, like, we weren't best buddies, but we knew of each other and we respected each other. And now, years later, it's like, oh yeah, I can reach out to that person and it doesn't feel strange. I think that for those that are going to the Governor's School now or thinking about going, really realizing that you're in this moment, that you will, maybe you'll be in it again, but chances are you won't be in such an accepting and small, tight-knit community that really lasts with you throughout your life. And I think I keep in touch with a few other of our high school people, and they feel the same way. Was this time in life that they never really found another that was the same. So enjoy it, is what
For
I would
sure.
say.
Great. Well, thanks so much again for volunteering to do this interview. Thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for asking.